What is going on, iCoach family? Happy Friday to you as I'm recording this today on this very cold morning here in Prosper, Texas. It's like in the 20s still. So for those of you that are local here in DFW, you're probably laughing at the crazy weather here that we've experienced. It's like 70 one day and then in the 20s the next day here. So gotta love Texas, But anyways, today's podcast topic that we're going to be diving into is I've had a lot of questions here recently about pricing of nutrition coaching, right? Because there is such a huge variance in nutrition coaching pricing, right? We see anywhere from $150 a month for nutrition coaching, all the way up to $5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $1,000, $900,000 a month for nutrition coaching. And for a lot of you listening, that might kind of blow your mind, right? Because that's like such a wide range. And you really, the question really starts to become, what is the difference, right? How do you start to differentiate between somebody that's charging $100, $150 a month for coaching versus, $500 a month for coaching versus $1,000 a month for coaching? And I wrote a blog on this. But I'm going to do my best attempt here to be able to kind of break this down and do it in this podcast format here as well for y'all, as well as for those of you that are watching the video format here for YouTube. So let's kind of start with this. I'm going to break this down into three different categories, if you will, right? And so we'll have our low tier of coaching in terms of pricing. We'll have our middle tier of pricing, and we'll have our high tier, our upper tier of pricing there. And the way that I'll kind of break that down is essentially, it's kind of in this $100, $150 a month range, then into kind of the $300 to $500 range, and then into the $500, $600 plus range. So basically, anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a month for coaching. And so really, when you start to look at this, right, the breakdown, when we look into that first tier of pricing and that $100, $150 a month, this is really going to be where you're seeing a lot of the, let's say like bigger companies. I'm not going to mention any names in this podcast at all. But this is where you're going to see a lot of the bigger companies that have, tons and tons, thousands and thousands and thousands of clients. They're really reaching the masses. In order to do that, they have to be able to scale their coaching in a way that isn't one-on-one coaching per se, right? They're not able to sit here and get on the phone or do a Zoom video or meet in person or do anything like that. And so essentially what you're seeing with the $100 and $150 a month range is people doing weekly check-ins on their clients. Typically this is done through email or this is done through an app. And really what I see here with this, and what I would argue is, maybe one of the biggest issues with the nutrition coaching space is the lack of human connection, right? And what I mean by that is most of these check-ins on a weekly basis that are done they're done through an app, right? And so you're maybe messaging back and forth with a coach, right, on the other end of an app. Or it's being done via an email check-in. And with the email check-ins, this is something where you're filling out a form, or maybe you're tracking on some type of habit tracker, but you're filling out a weekly check-in and you're emailing that into your coach, and your coach is responding back via email. Now, $100 to $150 a month, it's not a lot, right? I mean, the reality of it is you pay for what you get when it comes to nutrition coaching. And this is definitely the lowest end of pricing, and typically this is going to be the lowest end in terms of a user experience or the client experience there. Now, again, before I start diving into this, I want to preface this with this: I'm not doing this podcast to talk bad or talk down on any nutrition coach or company that is out there. I've received so many questions, and so really for me it's just all about being able to kind of break this down and help people, or help people that are potentially looking to hire a nutrition coach kind of understand the wide range of nutrition coaching here. Because if you think about from an outcome standpoint, right, most clients, most people that are looking to hire a nutrition coach, They want to feel better, they want to look better, and or they want to perform better, right? And so it's kind of crazy to have such a wide range in pricing based off the fact that there's so many similar outcomes here that people are seeking. Okay, so when you break down, like I was saying, when you're breaking down these pillars here, essentially it all comes down into communication, right? And the access to your coach, right? So the more access that you have to your coach, the more money you're going to spend, right? I think that's really the big takeaway here of this. And so going back to that lowest tier of pricing, when we come back to the email check-in or the phone app that these people are using, you're not gonna have a lot of human connection with that, right? I think there is a lot to be said about being able to, have weekly check-ins, weekly coaching calls over the phone, or weekly check-ins or coaching calls through Zoom, or even being able to do it in person. There's just a whole another level of human connection there. There's a whole nother level of building relationships there. And there's a whole other level of accountability that is done with that, right? Also, what I see with a lot of and again, let me rewind back here. Let me preface this with the fact that this is all based off the fact that I've worked with over 1,000 clients one-on-one over the last 10 plus years. Okay, so this isn't like me just getting into the field. This isn't my first rodeo here. Like, this is based off a lot of experience. And in the past, when I first started, I actually first started off charging $150 a month and doing email coaching. And again, it's not to say that email coaching, it doesn't work for some people or that it can't be successful for some people, but based off my experience, I just didn't see people get a lot of value off that. And I didn't see a lot of great results that came from that, especially in terms of long term. So coming back to the lower tier here of pricing, I see a lot of people that are doing the email coaching. It might start off good, but then it ends up being something where it's like these short, automated type responses, even like copy and paste type responses. And that's just not coaching, right? Like, especially when you see something like somebody making a meal plan for somebody, or somebody just giving someone their macros or adjusting their macros on a weekly basis, like that's not coaching, right? And I think that's the big thing that we've got to really differentiate as we're getting into these higher pricing tiers. Okay, so coming back to the human connection piece, right? You want to make sure that you can actually connect with your coach. You want to make sure that you find a coach that you feel like they actually care about you and your past and your current and where you're trying to go. And you want to make sure that it's the right fit. You want to make sure that you can really be able to build a real connection and to build a real relationship with them. Okay, so the middle tier of pricing, this is really kind of in that range of like the $300 to $500 per month tier. And this is really, in my opinion, where the best coaches and the best companies sit. Most of these coaches communicate and do their weekly check-ins via a phone consult there, or over the phone, or even in person. And this is really where human connection can be prioritized the most, right? This is where you can really build a relationship with your coach. Talking with somebody over the phone or through Zoom or in person just creates a whole new level of accountability, and a whole new level of human connection that you just, at least in my opinion, simply can't get through an email check-in, or checking in through an app there. And so if you start to think about, all of the other things that are also offered in this, most of these coaches and companies are going above and beyond. They have a private Facebook community, just an awesome community of education and support. They also have a bunch of different aspects of things, like, for example, communication outside of just the weekly check-ins and weekly coaching calls. So you actually have access to your coach 24/7 there via text message or through a messaging app, a private messaging app like Slack. They're also providing, things like habit trackers to be able to actually track your habits, whatever you're working on there. And you can do that through like Google Sheets or through an app. They are also creating like general workout programs and giving general workout programs through like an ebook or through an app. And they're also creating a whole bunch of different educational resources for their clients. So this could be in the form of infographics, blogs, podcasts, recipes, so on and so forth there. And then they'll also do like kind of one-off like value adds. And this could be like actually going grocery shopping with that client, either in person or through FaceTime. This could be creating like their grocery orders for them, doing, through Instacart or Amazon or whatever the grocery ordering platform is. Or maybe they're setting up their meal prep delivery service for them. And then some coaches and companies are also even adding another value add there, which would be like bringing in a subject matter expert. Maybe this is a therapist, maybe this is a counselor, to be able to speak on and talk on certain topics. And typically this is done like in a group format there. So they'll do a Zoom video coaching call, they'll bring in a subject matter expert, and now they're speaking on and opening up a Q&A for, different things like mental health and different things that clients could be struggling with and through this coaching experience, right? Because it's very rare that it's ever just about the nutrition and the fitness, right? There's so many other components that go into a client success journey there. And so really as a coach and with these companies, we want to make sure that we're providing our clients with really anything and everything that they need to become successful, right? So that's that middle tier of pricing, $300 to $500 a month. Now, the top tier of pricing here, this is when we start getting above that, right? $600, $700, $800, $900 a month, $1,000 a month. And honestly, this is where things start to get a little interesting, right? I don't want to sit here and say that not every one of these coaches, you typically aren't going to see any companies doing this, but this is where you're going to see some coaches charging these prices that for so many can seem pretty outrageous, right? And I don't want to negate the fact that there are some coaches that are definitely worth this, but I would argue that most of the time, these are typically, registered dietitians or somebody that is selling like a paid in full package, right? They're creating a package where it's like, hey, this is going to transform your life, right? And an example of this would be like, look, I mean, if you're 100 pounds and I help you lose 100 pounds, right? I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, that is literally life changing. Right? If you're somebody that runs a big company and you have tons of employees that we're working with there, I mean, this could be something that could really, give the energy and productivity to these clients or to these employees and to this company and create millions of dollars of revenue. So there's a lot of different examples here of ways that this definitely could be of value, and these prices can definitely get up higher and higher and higher. So when we look into the fact that a lot of these coaches are registered dietitians that are charging these prices, the reason that this is because technically RDs are the only nutrition professionals that, or at least in the United States, that are licensed to give nutritional advice, right? And so they feel that they need to charge the most. Right. And so what I'll say is this, is that as somebody that went to school for 6 years and spent $60,000 on a nutrition degree, but chose not to go the registered dietitian route, meaning that I didn't decide to get my degree in dietetics. I just got a general nutrition degree. I didn't decide to go and do the dietetics internship. I didn't sit and take the license exam there. Because honestly, I just didn't want to work in a clinical setting. I knew that from the very beginning. I was like, I do not want to go work in a hospital or any of these other clinical settings there. I want to be able to, I was a personal trainer going through school, and I knew that I wanted to work with people outside of that clinical setting. And so nothing wrong with those that do work in that setting. But for me, I just knew from the very beginning, that's not something that I wanted to do there. And you see a lot of registered dietitians that, 2022 here that have moved away from that. And, even though they're a registered dietitian, they're not working in the clinical setting. They're seeing, what so many of these nutrition coaches are doing online, and they've made the jump into telehealth and to creating their own private practice. Okay. So with that said, I personally think that most of the people, that registered dietitians as well as nutrition coaches that are charging this much, that they're overcharging for the value that they're bringing their client. And I'll add to this as well that unless you are somebody that is a client that has a specific medical condition, there's not really a need to work with a registered dietitian. Like the whole big thing around working with a registered dietitian is that they practice from a medical nutrition therapy standpoint there. And so unless you have like a specific medical diagnosis that absolutely needs to get treated from a registered dietitian, that at the end of the day, most people need to work on improving their lifestyle, right? Their lifestyle habits, right? Improving their sleep, their nutrition, exercising on a more consistent basis, hydration, stress management, personal development, these types of things. And you don't have to be a registered dietitian in order to be able to help people with that. So therefore, medical nutrition therapy is not required to be a great nutrition coach. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the value that I do value the investment that I made in getting my nutrition degree. But it's like, you don't have to be a registered dietitian to be a great coach. That's the big takeaway there. What I will say is that going to school for nutrition versus just getting a nutrition certification, it's completely different. I mean, me spending 6 years in school learning about all of the nutritional science, right, is much different than spending a weekend or spending a month or even a few months getting a nutrition certification, right? And so I do value that. And I think that there are a lot of nutrition, people out there that call themselves a nutrition coach or nutritionist that don't have that foundation. And so therefore, they just don't have a full understanding of the nutrition science. And so, there is that component of it, but it's 2022 and the information is out there everywhere. So anybody that wants to learn about that stuff, anybody that wants to become the best coach they possibly can, like if they're willing to put in the work, they absolutely can learn this stuff for sure. So yeah, it all just depends on, who wants to become an expert in their craft and become the best coach that they possibly can be. I'll also add that anyone could call themselves a nutritionist in the United States without having a nutrition degree, completing a dietetics internship and passing their licensure exam. I think I had mentioned that earlier there. So therefore, technically, becoming a registered dietitian is the highest level of nutrition professional that there is. But with that said, it doesn't make them a great coach, right? There's plenty of RDs that I came across that are terrible coaches. No different than any other profession, right? Like there's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's good physical therapists, there's bad physical therapists, so on and so forth, right? And I guess to that other point, there's also, a lot of people out there that call themselves a nutrition coach or a nutritionist that are far worse than any RD that I've ever met there. And oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the fitness influencers that are out there that are giving just, outrageous nutrition advice that is absolutely outside of their scope. There's so many people out there that are giving, meal plans when the only person that is supposed to legally give a meal plan is a registered dietitian, right? And so there's plenty of people out there giving meal plans, personal trainers, fitness influencers, whatever, that have no business doing that. It's literally against the law. So just something to think about in that regard. Okay, what else here? Let's see. So another possible scenario here would be if the coach is providing, I know I said nutrition coaching, but with some of these packages that are $600, $700, $800, $900 a month, $1,000 a month, they are also providing custom training programs, right? In which you're essentially paying for two separate services kind of combined into one coaching package there. And that's when sometimes people can, let's say, for example, they're charging $500 a month for nutrition coaching, and then they're also charging $500 a month for individualized training program. And that's when you can really get up to like that top tier of $1,000 a month there. So at the end of the day, you definitely pay for what you get when it comes to hiring a nutrition coach. You have to do your research. You have to do your due diligence before hiring a coach. I would recommend following the coach on social media for a bare minimum of 3 months before even reaching out and inquiring about their coaching services. I would also ask to speak to some of their previous clients that they've worked with and that are testimonials or client success stories for them, and be able to really ask questions and ask about the experience and ask how they went about the coaching process and what what the access looked like to the coach, and really just try to get all of your questions answered, and really try to if you could sit there and talk to 3 to 5 of like their most successful clients that they worked with and be able to kind of hear their stories, I definitely think that would be of value. Okay, also, don't shop around just based off price either. If the first question that you ask a coach is how much do you charge, it's typically a red flag for that coach, because you're literally just shopping based off price. And that's why a lot of coaches and a lot of companies don't even put their prices out there. And I'll say this too, just because you pay for the most expensive coach for the most expensive program, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best by any means there. With that said, there's all these caveats, right? But with that said, typically, if you're money motivated, the more you pay attention. And so you've got to really figure out like what motivates you to put in the work and get, in order to get the results that you desire, right? You have to also like really do your homework and due diligence there, so that you will be able to trust the process from the very beginning. Because if you're constantly questioning the coach or the program, not to say that you shouldn't ask questions, but if you're just constantly not trusting the process, sometimes you can self-sabotage and set yourself up for failure there as well. So big takeaways here is that you have to be able to trust the process and actually put in the work that it takes to be able to accomplish your goal. Anything worth having takes hard work, right? And life-changing transformations only happen when both the clients and the coach work together as a team, right? As they say, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So I'll end with this. I realize that not everybody listening to this podcast, watching this podcast here, is going to agree with me on every single thing that I've said, and that's okay. I think like being able to create some debate, some arguments here would definitely be encouraged. And so if there's anything that I missed here, any questions that you have that I can answer for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. There's so many different avenues here that you can reach out to do that. But hopefully this kind of created a framework as to the big takeaways, which are nutrition coaching can range from a huge variety of prices there. And ultimately, like, there are so many different nutrition coaches and companies out there. You really have to do your homework. You really have to do your due diligence. You really have to make sure that you're going to be a good fit for that coach or for that company, and that they're going to be a good fit for you, right? And I think any other aspects of this that you're considering would be, if you've never worked with a coach one-on-one before, if you've never worked with a nutritionist or registered dietitian or a nutrition coach before, in a one-on-one setting, it's definitely something that can really be life-changing. I mean, like I said, I've worked with over 1,000 clients one-on-one over the last 10 years. And, there's some people that, they get very minimal results. Maybe they don't see as much value in the process. And then there's some that literally have life-changing results and life-changing transformations. But I think in this world where we're approaching, we're in an obesity epidemic, we're approaching rates of, by 2030 here at 50% of the population being obese. The majority of clients that I work with are weight loss clients, right? Clients that are looking to, not solve the problem, which everybody can typically solve on their own, which is losing weight, right? All of these fad diets, all these crazy programs that are out there that starve their clients. There's plenty of that out there, right? There's plenty of people that'll get you to lose weight really fast. But what people really have a problem with is not losing weight, but actually being able to keep that weight off. And that's really what I work to accomplish there with the clients that are coming to me for weight loss, for fat loss, is out of everything that we're doing here, how are we making sure that we're individualizing to you and your lifestyle rather than trying to fit you into this cookie cutter box of a diet or a program, right? This is not about me knowing what's best for you, right? This is about us working together to help figure out what is going to actually work for you in this current season of life that you're in, right? And make sure that what we're doing is going to actually be able to be sustainable for the rest of your life, right? Because if you can only do this for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, like what's the point, right? Especially if you're going to make this type of investment in yourself from a financial standpoint, from a time standpoint, from an energy standpoint, mental, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so big takeaways here, guys, is you've got to make sure that you don't just jump into something, right? Do your homework, do your due diligence, read the blog here that I wrote, as I kind of outline things a lot better there in that blog format. Sometimes with these podcasts and videos, I can kind of be all over the place, admittedly with that. But if you want to really kind of look in and read all of this through, go to the website, icoachnutrition.com. It's the most recent article or blog there that I just posted. And you can be able to kind of read through all of this here as I was kind of talking through the blog, as you could hear or watch on today's podcast or video, but I would encourage you to kind of read through that blog. It's a quick read, but read through that, and that way you can really have all the details. You can use that as a reference, and you can really just kind of find the sweet spot for you. Different things work for different people, but ultimately the biggest takeaway of this all is the more access that you have to your coach, the more you need to be willing to pay, right? I will go above and beyond for any client that I work with, right? I will literally do whatever it takes to make you successful. But at the end of the day, I'm also not the cheapest coach or the cheapest coaching program that's out there either. And so if you're looking for something where you're just going to have an app or you're just going to do email check-ins with a coach, I'm definitely not the coach for you there. At the same time, I definitely also don't charge my clients $1,000 a month either. So for us, we're really in that middle tier of pricing. And I think that's where, really from a value standpoint, clients are invested, right? They're paying and they're paying attention, right? And that dynamic, as well as with what we're offering in terms of iCoach Nutrition and our coaching program with iCoach University, those two things matched, right, is really what has allowed us to achieve success. That's really what's allowed us to, for me to be in the field now for as long as I have, and to have owned my company, iCoach Nutrition, and to have had the success with my company and all of the clients that I've had the privilege of working with here over the last 4 years. So again, thank you for listening, guys. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I hope this was valuable. I hope that nobody took offense to any of this here. Again, I don't want to talk down or bad about anybody there. I truly do hope that this helps, and I hope that this adds value, and I appreciate your time for listening or watching today. And until next time.